Welcome to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network's CRE Radio. Thanks for joining us. My name is J. Darren Gross. This is the podcast focused on commercial real estate investment and risk management strategies. Weekly, we have conversations with commercial real estate investors and professionals who provide their experience and insight to help you grow your real estate portfolio. Today, my guest is Dave Spooner. Dave Spooner is the co-founder of Innago, a property management software designed to simplify life for small to mid-sized landlords. He's been involved in the real estate technology space since 2013, working to enhance the way landlords and tenants communicate. And in just a minute, we're going to speak with Dave about property management software and how it can make your life better. But first, a quick reminder. If you like our show, CREPN Radio, there are a couple things you can do to help. You can like, share, and subscribe. And as always, we encourage you to leave a comment. We love to hear from our listeners. Also, if you want to see how handsome our guests are, be sure to check out our YouTube channel. You can find us on YouTube at Commercial Real Estate Pro Network. And while you're there, please subscribe. With that, I want to welcome my guest, Dave. Welcome to CREPN Radio.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm looking forward to our talk today. Before we jump into it, if you could take just a minute and share with the listeners a little bit about your background.
Yeah, no problem at all. So as you mentioned in the intro, I've been involved in real estate technology since 2013. My first foray was helping a company build a listing platform specifically designed for student housing. And through that venture, I got a lot of exposure to small to mid-size independent landlords. That's predominantly who makes up student housing, who owns portfolios in student housing. And we just kept hearing over and over again how much these landlords felt that they needed tools that were better suited to them, to their portfolios. The existing tools were too expensive or too cumbersome, too difficult to use. And we kept hearing it. And finally, me and another guy that was working at that company said, "Hey, we keep hearing this. Let's go give them what they want." And we formed Innago in 2017. And we've been working hard on it ever since, trying to deliver just that, tools that are easy to use for landlords, free to use for landlords, and to just make management of their portfolio easier than it has been in the past.
No, I'm guessing when you hear the problem over and over again, if you can make a solution that fits that problem, that's an audience that's happy to hear from you.
That's right. Yeah, even an idiot like me can get the message if you hear it hundreds and hundreds of times.
Right. Well, so let's talk a little bit about it. And I apologize. I think I might have misspoken when I said it before, but you call it Innago is how you pronounce it. Is that correct?
Innago. Yeah, that's right. No problem. It happens all the time.
Okay. So let's talk about some of the elements of the platform. I know I looked on it a little bit before getting on this call with you. And can you describe some of the capabilities and the nuance, or what it can help a landlord do?
Yeah, absolutely. To kind of orient the audience, it's rental management software, right? So the tools that you'd expect to find in most rental management software exist in Innago. That's things like managing your collection, accepting rent online, signing documents online. You can do that through our platform, storing information like lease details, automating reminders, handling maintenance tickets, screening tenants. All that stuff is included in the Innago platform. Kind of differentiating factors for us are, one, that we're free to use. That's a big difference maker. Two, that we were really designed to work with landlords of various sizes, of various portfolio types. It's not just student housing, it's commercial real estate, it's multifamily, it's general residential. We even work with, there's a lot of folks that use us for, they manage salons. There's a lot of people that own salons and then they rent out chairs within their salons to hairdressers, and they use Innago to manage those. We have tons of those folks. So we wanted to build a platform that was more flexible, that was easier to use, it had more features that landlords really, really needed. So the traditional features you'd expect, but kind of packaged in a way that's easier to use and flexible enough to work however your business operates.
Got it. Now, I know one of the things I saw when I was looking on the website is it does have the capability to integrate with QuickBooks or Quicken or
Yeah.
um, so can you talk a little bit? I mean, obviously there's multiple facets to it. And I know in the intro I talked about communicating between landlords and tenants, and you've mentioned a few of the things that are natural in the communication with landlords and tenants. Um, Leases. I mean, that it sounds like that's a what do you have, a digital signature platform or the ability to do the digital signature on that?
Yeah, exactly. If most folks are familiar with like DocuSign, for example, or Adobe has an EchoSign platform that allows you to sign, very, very similar to those two. You can do digital signatures through our platform, create multiple templates, not just a lease, but anything like a pet addendum or a renewal agreement or anything like that. You can generate templates, reuse templates, and sign documents through Innago.
Got it. And then repair requests. I mean, I assume that's the pretty standard. Does the tenant have a login? Do they create a login for themselves, and the landlord has a login to where everybody's going into the from outside to the inside? Is that
Yeah, exactly. So tenants have their own separate login. And one of the things that we realized when we were looking at the market is a lot of the platforms that existed before would put all their emphasis and focus on the landlord side of things. But, landlords often forget, and certainly the companies that develop those software platforms often forget that ultimately the customer is the tenant, right? They're the one paying the rent, they're the one paying the bills. And you want to give them a really good, clean experience, and you want to make it as easy as possible for them to pay that rent, right? Don't put any walls in front of them. So yeah, tenants have their own login. We've put a ton of effort into making it as streamlined as possible for those folks. They have an app they can download, and yeah, they can, from the app or from their phone or wherever they're logged in, take a picture of a broken dishwasher, take a video of the sound that it's making, and submit that as a maintenance request to the landlord. The landlord can obviously react to that. If the landlord has maintenance personnel that work for them, property managers that work for them, they can add those people as sub-users in Innago and either have those requests route directly to them, or they can kind of intercept it first, vet out the request, and then distribute it out to those maintenance personnel to handle those issues. So lots of tooling built around work orders and maintenance requests. I know that's a big, that's always a hot topic with landlords, how to deal with that kind of thing.
yeah? No. So let's talk about the money um, transfer here. So you have a lease, rent's due on the first. Um, do you have the ability to integrate the tenant paying it, or is it more a matter of can tell me about the payment, uh, how you can do or collect, or if you do,
Yeah,
or collect or transfer money?
we do. Online payments are offered through Innago for rent, for security deposits, for pet fees, or anything else that you're charging your tenant for that's related to the rent. They log into their account. They can add a payment method like their bank account. They can add a credit or debit card and submit a payment directly through Innago, and then we send the funds right into your bank account as a landlord. And the landlords can have one bank account for all of their properties. They can have specific bank accounts for specific properties and units. They can have a bank account that collects security deposits and then a different one for rent. They can do anything they need to manage where those funds are going. And we deliver the funds generally after a single business day hold. So if somebody pays on a Monday, we hold it Tuesday and it's in your account first thing Wednesday. So the money moves quickly, lots of payment methods available to tenants, and lots of control over where that money goes to the landlord.
Got it. So in notices, rent's due on the first, isn't here on whatever the late day is, 5th or the 10th or whatever. Do you have the automated messaging built into this, or is that something the landlord can augment to their own lease, or how's that work?
We do, yeah. It's all built in, and not to go on too much of a tangent here, but we internally talk about Innago as tenant management software. That's not a term that people really use in the industry, so we don't advertise ourselves that way. But internally, we consider ourselves tenant management software rather than property management software. And what we mean by that is when you're managing properties, you can control, and you're investing in properties, you can control a lot of factors. You can control, you can draw up pro formas, you can do financial forecasting for years into the future. When you purchase something, you typically know the useful life of that appliance or whatever it may be. You can forecast all these things and control all these things for inanimate objects. But the biggest X factor for landlords, for property managers, for real estate investors is the tenants, right? That's the variable they can't control. So we're software that's designed to put some controls in place, right? To allow landlords to automate those pieces of the puzzle for themselves. And a huge, huge, huge part of that is effective communication. We can't emphasize enough how important that is. And a big piece of that is, of course, those automated reminders, like you mentioned. So tenants are going to get a reminder 5 days before rent is due, the day it's due, and then the day before late fees kick in. And you can, of course, automate all sorts of different late fees in Innago. You can control any of those timeframes. So if you want to let somebody know 30 days before because you collect semester rent at a off-campus housing, if you want to let them know 1 day before for whatever reason, you can control those notifications. But yeah, we're going to automatically indicate to your tenant when rent is due, when late fees are stacking up, and we'll automate all those processes for you.
Awesome. Let me ask you, I know, a fair amount of tenants these days tend to be unbanked. They tend to pay with cashier's check or money
Sure.
orders. Does that work with us, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's a great question. So you can record offline payments in Innago very easily. So for bookkeeping purposes, to maintain a P&L, to maintain an effective rent roll, you can track all that in Innago, right? You can record a money order or check payment. We don't currently have any tooling that's built in to allow you to accept those payments electronically. There are some services out there that can do that. Fiserv, for example, has a service. We've looked into it. I think it's something we would definitely integrate at some point. Certainly a feature down the road that we're very intrigued by. We just haven't seen enough demand for it yet. But if people are paying by money order, you can still, of course, record those payments in Innago to keep your books up to date.
Gotcha. And then what about the platform as far as messaging the tenant or even the vendor that you need to help you with work? Is it strictly an email message, or is there any option to send a text?
Yeah, currently it's all email based. So there's a whole messaging portal within Innago. You can create email templates though that you can reuse. So if you have like common messages that you send to folks, and you can autofill certain pieces of it. We call them personalization tokens. So like you want to send an email to all 100 of your tenants, you can still personalize them with, hey, first name, your lease starts on, put in their lease date, whatever it is. We do have some really exciting stuff coming in this direction. We are working on a built-in chat feature that's going to be really cool. It'll help even further streamline the communication between landlord and tenant, and allow landlords to keep their personal contact info out of the hands of their tenants, which I know is important to a lot of folks. So we're working on those tools. They're going to be really cool. We're super excited about them. We're hoping that they'll roll out before the end of the year. We don't have any set timeline on it just yet, though.
Got it. So as the product currently sits, what's been the most appealing feature that you've heard from the users?
I'd say there's a few that come to mind. The obvious one is rent collection. That's one that brings a lot of people through the door. But after using Innago, I commonly hear how excited people are about the late fee features built into the tool. First of all, our late fees are very flexible. So I've never encountered a landlord who couldn't manage their late fees, however convoluted they are, within our system. They're very flexible tools. But the thing that people love so much about it, especially if you're coming from not managing people online and not offering them this type of tooling in the past, if this is your first time with that experience, it's going to totally change the way that you interact with your tenants regarding rent. For example, for many landlords in the past, when rent was late, let's say rent's 5 days late, and now the tenant has a $50 fee, right? So rent's 5 days late, landlord calls up the tenant and they say, hey, you're 5 days late. You need to send me a check of $500 for rent plus $50 for the late fee, $550 total. And if I don't get it in the next 2 days, I'm going to drop an eviction notice or a notice to quit or whatever their local laws say they have to do next. Tenant freaks out, right? They say, oh, I got to get this money in right away. They quickly put a check together, drop it off, send it in the mail, whatever they need to do to get it to their landlord ASAP. Landlord says, awesome, I got the check. They open it up, it's $500, right? They didn't pay the late fee. Tenant never pays the late fee. And the landlord then has a decision. Do I go after them for this $50 that ultimately is fairly meaningless to me? And it's a big hassle to call them up and say, hey, you got to get this to me, et cetera, et cetera. Or Do I just kind of wipe my hands of it and say, okay, I got the rent, it's 5 days late, it's not the end of the world, I'll move on? Most people choose the latter. And when they do, the tenants learned a few things. One, they don't have to pay late fees, right? They're going to skip them every time from now on. Two, the landlord is going to call and remind them to make a payment. And three, the landlord's threats are empty, right? And those are all bad lessons to teach a tenant. With automated software, you're not involved at all, right? The late fee just shows up. It's now on the rent. The tenant cannot pay the next month's rent until they've paid the late fee and the principal rent due. So even if they skip it this month, next month they're going to have to pay it. And they understand that, oh, these threats have teeth now, right? If I get a late fee, I got to pay a late fee. And that's a huge game changer for landlords. Suddenly, you're collecting more late fees than you did before. And then quickly thereafter, rent is coming in on time more effectively than it ever did before. So that's a huge feature that it seems small, seems subtle, but is a big game changer for landlords that are first experiencing it.
No, I would concur that just even training your tenant, right away that no, there's, their mindset changes to where it's not like, oh, I can pay the landlord last.
Right.
I got to pay the landlord first.
Exactly. It's a mindset change. That's a good way to say it.
Oh, that's great. I know that a lot of these software or platforms, there's a lot of iterations over time. Is there anything you're working on that's you're planning to introduce here in the near future that you're excited about?
Yes, very excited. We just launched the first version of our landlord mobile app. So we've had a tenant mobile app in place for quite a while. We took a bit longer to develop the landlord side, as we really wanted to make it a tailored experience for mobile, not just kind of a smaller version of our website, but a wholly different platform, built for a mobile device. So that is about to come out widely. Right now, it's only in the hands of kind of select users existing on Innago. But in the next few weeks, we'll have that launched live. I'd say certainly within the next 4 weeks. Everybody can access it. And then I also mentioned the communication tools, the chat features that we're building out to make communication even simpler for landlords. So those are two big ones on the horizon that I'm really excited about. We make regular updates though. I mean, we release new patches and builds and features every week at Innago. So there's small things that are coming in all the time, little quality of life improvements to make the system better, and sometimes even full on features that come out. But those are the two big ones that I'm most excited about upcoming.
Got it. We've been talking about the owner operator as the primary user. Do you also provide this for property managers?
Yeah, we work with tons of property managers. And like I mentioned, we offer the ability to have multiple users access the platform, right? You can have your maintenance personnel. You can also have your property manager access it, or conversely, a property manager that manages for, 10, 15, 20, 100 different owners can add those owners to Innago with their own set of access, where they can see just their properties or just the financials on their properties, and kind of keep a thumb on the heartbeat of what's going on with their property. So it's an easy way to integrate those owners in to give them a positive experience as well. So yeah, lots of property managers use Innago as well.
Got it. And then we talked a little bit about QuickBooks or Quicken. Is there an accounting feature built into Innago?
Yeah, in one quick point, I'm glad we came back to it. One quick point of clarification: we integrate with QuickBooks Online. We do not integrate with Quicken, and we don't integrate with QuickBooks Desktop. So it is the online version that'll integrate with Innago directly. It's a great feature set. Anything that happens in Innago related to your finances will automatically show up in your QuickBooks account. So it makes it really easy from a management standpoint. You just manage collection and even expenses if you'd like in Innago, and it's automatically up to date on QuickBooks. We do have accounting tools built into Innago. They're not as substantive as QuickBooks, though. That is very much by design. Again, we talk about ourselves as tenant management software, right? We're not your financial tool. I own 8 units myself, and I use Innago for them, of course. I don't use QuickBooks at all. I don't use any sort of accounting software. At the end of the year, I export all my income data from Innago. I export all my expense data from Innago. I then export my P&L report, which we generate for you in Innago, which is honestly redundant because I just got the income and the expenses, but it combines them both in one place. I send those 3 reports to my CPA. He does our taxes. It takes me less than 3 minutes to get all those reports. He's got everything that he needs. It looks great for him. It's in a nice format. He generates our taxes, and we're done. That's it. So we do have some accounting tools. If you are a more substantial operation, it's great to do the QuickBooks Online integration. It just depends on kind of what you're looking for and what your business looks like.
Gotcha. And what about, I know vacation rentals, the Airbnb type stuff. Is there any issue working with that type of platform? Does that work as well?
No, there's not an issue at all, and we work with lots of them. We're not designed for it specifically. We're not like constantly thinking how can we make Airbnb rentals easier. But again, it's kind of a testament. It goes back to we work with barbershops and they rent out chairs. If you're renting something, you can use Innago, right? It's easy to manage it in that way. The tools are built flexibly enough to handle just about any scenario. So yeah, we work with tons of short-term rentals. You just may find that you need to dig a little deeper into things to make them work for your situation, but I can almost guarantee they will ultimately work for your situation.
Got it. Is there a minimum number of units this works best for? Or?
No, our range is pretty large. We work with a ton of one-unit landlords, and our largest landlords have as many as 2,000 units. So it's a huge range that are using our platform. It's the same platform for everybody. Our bread and butter is 1 to 100 units. That's who we target with our marketing. That's who we're generally thinking about. But again, we're really intending to build a platform that can grow alongside a portfolio. So even if you have many more than 100, it still is something worth taking a look at.
Got it. And the ideal opportunity, you said, is anyone from like 1 to 100.
Yeah.
I want to come back to the price. You say it's free, and I know my dad told me a long time ago that nothing's free.
Right.
How is it that this is free, or what is it that you're, how are you being compensated?
Right. Yeah, there's no free lunch, right? We are not a charity. We are not a nonprofit. We do make money. We just don't charge landlords for anything. And we truly don't. There's no catch. There's not going to be a surprise charge. You don't hit a unit threshold and suddenly you get hit with fees. There's no setup fees, nothing like that. We instead charge for 3 things in Innago. I think landlords will find all 3 are very reasonable. All 3 are charged to tenants by default. So when a tenant pays online, if they pay rent, if they pay a deposit or pet fee or whatever it is, if they pay with a bank account, we charge them $2 for that transaction, just $2. If they pay with a credit or debit card, we charge them 2.75%. It's a little higher, but as long as they have a credit card, they should have access to a bank account. Landlords can choose to take on either of those fees. There's plenty of landlords that say, hey, I'll cover the ACH fee. $2 is nothing to me. I'll give that as a free option, but let the tenants pay the credit card transaction fee if they want to. Some real crazy landlords take on the credit card fee too. It's totally up to them. That's one way we make money. The second way we make money is on screening reports. So you can screen tenants through Innago. You can accept applications through Innago. And when an application comes in, you decide as the landlord whether or not you want that application to include a credit, criminal, and eviction history. And if you say yes, the applicant pays for those reports. $30 to $35, depending on the level of screening. Landlords do have the option to add additional charges on top. If they do like vetting or anything like that for their time, we'll send that excess money to the landlord. You charge $50, you get $15 if you're doing the full screening package. And the third and final thing we make money on is renters insurance. Landlords are able to require renters insurance from their tenants, require proof of it. I highly recommend this to folks. It's a nice, well, you're in the insurance game. I'm sure you know all about it. It's just another barrier for these landlords from potential liability. But in any case, they can require it. And if they do, the tenants can purchase a policy through us or just upload a copy of a policy they've purchased elsewhere. So, they can buy ours. Ours are market rate. It's pretty standard pricing. You'll see we make a commission on that. Or again, they can just upload a policy they found elsewhere. So the 3 things to recap are online payments, tenant screening, and renters insurance, all charged to tenants by default, but the landlord can choose to take on some of those transaction fees if they'd like to.
Yeah. Well, I would think the screening is a, standard with or without any kind of deal. And the banking fees seem to be pretty standard anymore. I mean, it's one of the convenience fees that people are pretty agreeable to.
Right.
On all sides. And the renter's insurance, I can tell you as a landlord and as an insurance agent, I've got clients that had resisted, and I'm speaking as an insurance broker, they resisted requiring insurance of their tenants. And over time, they finally, I don't know, something changed where they all of a sudden did require it. And I remember one of my clients coming to me and saying, "Hey, you know what? I haven't had to call you for a long time," and it was about these claims that they'd been having that were the tenant was responsible for, but they were able to turn them into the tenant's insurance,
Yep.
and the tenant's insurance took care of it. And I'll remind anybody, the number one fire source in you know homes and apartments is cooking. So until people don't cook, you're always going to be exposed, and usually it's the water from the fire department that creates the real big mess. Um, but
Right.
it's a great tool, and also I think that having it in your system there kind of raises your penetration as far as the people having it. I mean, if you require it in your lease, and then you also make it easy for them to get.
Exactly.
And the last thing I'll say is that I think that you naturally, by selection or self-selection, you raise the caliber of your tenant, um,
100%.
as opposed to having somebody that's not doing that. So that's that's my take on those things. But that's great. I mean, I think those seem to be pretty standard, and I would think that they make all for a better tenant and then a landlord tenant experience.
Yeah, I require renters insurance of all my tenants. We make them provide it. I just think it's such an important barrier these days, and it like you said. I think folks would be surprised how much damage it can cover if there is damage caused by the tenant, and it also covers in situations of liability, like if a dog, somebody's a tenant's dog bites somebody else. If they don't have insurance, you could get called in. Well, if they have that, that's just another barrier from your insurance getting called in to cover that kind of stuff. So it's a great tool. It's inexpensive for tenants. It's really not that pricey, and it's just another barrier protecting you.
No, that's great. Hey, Dave, if we could, I'd like to shift gears here for a second. Um, and it's actually not even shifting gears; it's kind of moving forward with the risk and the insurance question here.
Yeah.
So by day, I'm an insurance broker, and typically work with clients to assess risk and determine what to do with the risk. And there's three strategies we typically consider. The first is, can we avoid the risk? The second is, can we minimize the risk? And if we can't do option one or two, we look to see if we can transfer the risk. And that's what an insurance policy is. And I like to ask my guests if they can look at their own situation. It could be their clients, investors, tenants, market, however you would like to frame the question, and identify what you consider to be the biggest risk. And for clarification, I'm not necessarily looking for an insurance related answer, but if you're willing, I'd like to ask you, Dave Spooner, what is the biggest risk?
It's a great question. It's something we think and talk about a lot, especially as a small company. We were founded 4.5 years ago now, a little over 4.5 years ago now, and we're at an inflection point, kind of an extended inflection point, where we've grown really, really quickly, and we're continuing to grow, and it's really accelerating. More and more people are finding us. More and more landlords are giving us great reviews online. The word is out that Innago is a premier product for small to mid-sized landlords, and we're growing faster than we've ever grown before by exponential figures, right? Which is great. It's very exciting. But the risk that comes with that is in growing the team, right? In building our team internally, in finding great employees. It's easier to have quality control on your team when it's just you and 5 other people, 10 other people, 15 other people. But as it grows beyond that, it becomes harder and harder. And that's where we are right now, where we're growing pretty rapidly, and we're expanding our team and trying to find good talent and making sure that talent is acclimated effectively, so that they're happy, so that they enjoy working here, so that they feel fulfilled, but they're also providing great value to the rest of the team and to our clients. That's our biggest risk right now. It's just continuing to find good team members. And to relate that back to real estate, I think that's ultimately a place that landlords and real estate investors get to, right? If you're purchasing your first property, your first couple properties, it's easy to control a lot of that stuff. It's easy to do quality control, but as you grow bigger, you have to have a great team, right? You got to have a good broker. You got to have a good insurance guy, of course, right? You got to have a good lawyer on your team, maybe a tax guy, a CPA. Maybe you hire internally, right? You hire your own property manager. It's the same risk that other folks have, but we're experiencing it on a bigger scale right now. And that's our biggest risk, something we think about a lot, something we talk about a lot, something we're going to make sure to mitigate as much as possible.
No, that's pretty insightful, and I think anybody that's having growing pains, um, that's always a challenge. Like you said, it's easy to manage five, but when you get beyond 50 or 100, it's it's a whole different equation. So that's good. Hey, Dave, where can listeners go if they'd like to learn more or connect with you?
Yeah, you can check us out at Innago.com. It's Innago. That's N as in Nancy.com. You can also find us on all the major social media platforms. We're typically under Innago software, but if you just search like Innago Twitter, Innago Facebook, etc. I also we're very transparent. You can call us up here at Innago. You can email us. I like to give out my email. Please, if anyone has questions, they can email me at Dave, DAVE, at Innago.com. I am happy to answer them or get you in touch with the smarter folks at the company that can answer them better than I can. But yeah, you can find us online anywhere and reach out to me directly if you'd like to.
Awesome. Dave, I can't say thanks enough for taking the time today. I've enjoyed our talk, learned a lot, and hope we can do it again soon.
Yeah, this was great. Thanks a bunch for having me.
All right. For our listeners, if you like this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Remember, the more you know, the more you grow. That's all we've got this week. Until next time, thanks for listening to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network's CREPN Radio.